What's up, everybody? It's Mr. Talkbox. Check it out. You need to like and subscribe. Come on and catch a vibe. Boy, DOA playlist. Let's get the fucking.
YouTube family and YouTube world, I hope everybody is well and blessed. Today, let me see, I think I'm gonna call the day, today's gonna be called Quartet Day. Not quartet, but Quartet Day. See, if you really we gonna call it Quartet Day, because I'm gonna tell y'all.
Sound like Papa Joe.
I'm gonna tell y'all. Y'all see this brother here? Let me tell you. This brother is a legend. He just a phenomenal person, a big brother. That when I met this dude, I thought I met Michael Jackson or Muhammad Ali. That's how stoked I was, because this brother is one of the original members of the world famous gospel keynotes from Tyler, Texas. And as a kid, I was raised up on quartet music, and I was raised up the gospel keynotes. To this day, still my all-time favorite group, and I used to watch this brother on stage and watch him come in and out of town with the keynotes and on the buses, and they were like rock stars to me. I was a kid wanting to be exactly like these guys. They were, I'm serious, man. I get so excited about quartet music, and whenever Teddy calls me on the phone, I still get that same feeling. I'm like, man, this Teddy Cross is calling me, man. This is crazy. So I want to introduce y'all to my dear brother, man, my friend. This dude, I love him dearly. I'm honored to be a part of his life. I'm honored to be a part of his brotherhood. And y'all welcome to my playlist, the one, the only, the legendary Pastor Teddy Cross. Come on, you talk. Give it up. Teddy! Come on, man.
What an introduction, man. I'm beginning to wonder who you were talking about with all that, man. Man, it was an honor also as well to meet you with all your accolades as well, with all the things that you've done, man. I'm grateful to know you, and you're still doing it, at such a high level. And so, man, I'm grateful to be a part of what you're doing.
Well, Teddy, I appreciate that, but there ain't no way we ain't making not an inch of this conversation about me, man. I promise you that. If I got to put you on mute, I ain't got no mute button, but I just this is gonna be about you. Listen, man, I want to say thank you, man, from the bottom of my heart, man, for hanging out with me, joining me. And I know how busy you are. I know your schedule. Man, I just thank you, man, for being, my first. You were going to be my first quartet, just cat, period. That was just a no-brainer. And I just thank you, man, for hanging out with me, man, and sharing. And after the day, man, all these people are going to understand, man, why I think you're such a special man. Some of the history you have made in the world of gospel music, man, playing with with just one of the greatest groups in the world, with Willie Neal Johnson, and talk about some of the experiences. And I'm glad, Teddy, because we talk, so we could keep it a buck, man. I want to maybe enlighten some people to what your lifestyle was really like, man, because we thought, we're from the Bay Area, Sacramento, Oakland. So I'm from the home of Jubu, Eric Smith, Elijah Baker, Raphael Sadiq. I mean, all of us, man, we were like, we ate, slept, we drank quartet. That was just it, man. That was just the nature of our life, and it still is to this day. So we looked at you guys as rock stars, man. We would see you guys pull up on the bus, man. We would be trying to look through the windows, man. Y'all slapping dominoes, man. Y'all got the jewelry on, man. The Jerry curls was just banging out, man. And the suits, man. Y'all was just cold. And we wanted to experience every part of everything you guys come into town, all the groups come in, and we wanted to get the whole experience, man. We were just like really big fans, man, as kids growing up. So I really want to talk about what the lifestyle was really like, man. We'll get into some things that you don't mind sharing, man. And because your story, Teddy, is amazing, man. It's absolutely phenomenal, man, where God has brought you from and some of the things that you've been through during that time. So we're going to get into that, man. But first of all, Teddy, you moved from New Orleans, Louisiana, to Jackson, Mississippi, where you currently live. How come?
Well, to be honest with you, man, I actually lived in Jackson before I lived in New Orleans, but I'm originally from Virginia.
Okay.
Where the keynote story, my part of the keynote story began in Virginia. So I moved from Virginia to Jackson, Mississippi in 1990 to do a project with Leonard Williams, who was one of the original Williams brothers, but he was working on his own. So I moved to Jackson in 1990 and I met my wife here. And so I never went back to Virginia. And then in 98, we moved to New Orleans. We stayed there for almost 20 years. And then we moved back to Mississippi. Actually, we live in the country part of Mississippi. And we had land up here. We had a house up here. Everything was paid for. So it was just a no-brainer. I mean, we're debt-free, so there it is.
Hey, Teddy, I know you got your farm out there, man. So have you started putting the horses and everything and the things together for the farm yet, man? Have you started building that part?
No, I ain't no farm boy, man. The closest I come to being a farmer is last night I shot an armadillo that was in my yard.
Oh, really? Wow, man. Teddy, so listen, man, let's get into this, man. Before you joined the Gospel Keynotes, were you in another quartet group, or was the Keynotes the start of your professional career?
The Keynotes was the start of my professional career. I had a couple of local groups in my hometown of Franklin, Virginia, that I sang and played with. But the Keynotes kicked it off. They came to a little town called Suffolk, Virginia, and they was on tour. They had this tour called the Battle of the Giants, which is the Gospel Keynotes, Slim and the Supreme Angels, Willie Banks and the Messengers, and they had a guitar player that used to play with them named Lil James. I don't know if you remember him. But anyway, I noticed that Lil James wasn't there. And I went up to Willie. I said, Willie, y'all need a guitar player? He says, you know how Willie's up? Yeah, yes, sir. Meet Val tomorrow. And I need you to come to the hotel and audition. And so I came to the hotel and Val told me several songs to play and I played them. And then he says, meet me tonight in Richmond. And of course I joined then, and it was awesome, man. I was like on cloud nine. I was like you. I always wanted to do that, and man, I was living the dream right away. It just blew my mind.
All right, so Teddy, let's back up a little bit, man. Slow down, so because I want them to really understand this now. They come to Virginia, the Keynotes, and you're a fan of the Keynotes at this time.
Yeah,
you're not in the group, so they get now. Was it your plan, or was it your? Because a lot of groups come to town, they missing guitar players. Volunteers used to do it all the time. They missing the bass player. They missing somebody. Did you have an idea that, or were you thinking about when you went to go see them that you were going to try to you asked for a job? Was that on your mind, or were you just planning on?
Yes.
Oh, that was
Most
on your
definitely.
mind. Go ahead.
Most definitely.
That was on, but you didn't know that they needed a guitar player.
Right. That's why I went and asked Willie, y'all need a guitar player. He said, yes, sir. So, hey.
So you just went and asked them for a job, and they really needed a guitar player.
Yes.
A second guitar player, because Val was the number one. They need a second guitar.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Now, were you aware that the other guitar player had split?
I knew that he wasn't there. I didn't know what the story was behind it. I just went and asked Willie, and he told me the audition. So, hey, I hurry up and got to the hotel.
Man,
The next day.
What's an audition like on guitar for the gospel keynotes? I mean, where you at the hotel? Where y'all, like, tell me about that. What were y'all in the room? What's that like?
Yeah, I went to Val's room, and Val would tell me he would play Down in the Water, or play Jesus, You've Been Good to Me, or play That's My Son, and I played whatever he asked me to play. And he said, meet me in Richmond tonight.
So did you have an amp? Did y'all have the amps hooked up, or what? Tell me about it, man. Was it just unplugged, or what was the vibe?
It was just unplugged. It was unplugged. We were sitting, sitting in his room, man.
See, world. See, let me tell you something. That's quartet. That's quartet for you. You dig what I'm saying? It was no SIR, with no third encore, with all that. It was in the hotel room. Was y'all staying in a hotel or motel? Which one was y'all staying in?
You know, at the time, it was a Holiday Inn. Okay. I think Holiday Inn was hotel motel. At that time, 1980.
Hey, man, because there's a video of the Volunteers, man, rehearsing, and they in a motel. I promise you that, man. I see they got two raggedy beds and a little 19-inch, look like a broken down TV. They are in that room practicing. They practice the door open, and so that's why I had to ask, man. And I love that. It's one of my favorite videos. But anyway, so you do the audition, then you go to Richmond. Did you play that night?
Yeah, I played that night. Yeah.
And so
I played that night.
Did you join the group then?
And I had my bags packed. I just jumped on the bus. I hired myself.
Teddy, what you do for the uniforms, man? Did you get that later? How did you get the uniforms?
That came later. I stayed with them a while before they gave me the uniform. As a matter of fact, there's a clip on Bobby Jones' gospel with me before I got in uniform.
I'm sure I watched it. Were you singing or playing?
I was playing.
Okay, I got to go back and watch that because you're not official until you got the uniform, everything down to the socks. Yeah. You dig?
Yeah.
Am I telling the truth, Teddy? You got to have the socks.
Yeah.
Then now you official. You still was there. You was in what do they call it? You still was in before
probation.
Probation. You was on probation.
Yeah.
Teddy, man, I promise you, everything I love, man. I wish I could have been there during that time. I promise you, man, that would have I admire that. So because I was just such a fan, I want to know everything, man. So now you in the group, Teddy. You playing guitar. How did they treat you, man? Like, how was Larry? How did everybody treat you? You and Val, were you guys good? How did did they accept you in? How was that?
Well, I've always had a friendly personality. They treated me well. But they also, there was a level of professionalism that I needed. And so they were very, very, I guess the word is candid. I guess they were forthright with me, like, hey, man, you need to do this right here. with your timing. Larry worked with me a lot with my timing. Val worked with me a lot with my chords, and it was other guitar players and other groups, man, that really helped me a lot. I mean, Sugar Hightower, Spanky, there's Willis, Kenny Willis with the Brooklyn All-Stars, Paul Peters from the Jackson Southern Air. These guys would spend time with me, man, and just help me develop, and until I started, coming of my own, man. And so, they treated me well. I was living the dream, so I did whatever it took.
Now, the keynotes, most quartet groups, man, they really pride themselves on fashion, style. You guys would actually get fined for certain things. And so tell me that, Teddy, how did they have to groom you? Because quartet, they have a certain look, walk, the way they stand, the way they talk, is just everything professional. Uniform, out of uniform before you get to the show, uniform in the show, change your thing and put on another suit. Like, you had to be, everything was like, don't wear your uniform before y'all sing. Y'all just come in just regular suits, and then y'all will go put your uniforms on, and then afterwards you get dressed. Y'all be sharp, man. So did you have to be trained for that, or talk a little bit about that?
Well, I'll never forget it. And I got to give Jeff credit, man. He's my big brother. We were in Union Springs, Alabama, and I can't remember exactly how long I had been with the group. But he came to my room. He says, Teddy, look, if you're going to be with the keynotes, it's a certain look that you got to have. And I'm just going to say it. He said, you can't look like an insurance man. You got... They was telling me that my suit looked like an insurance man. And to be honest with you, I used to sell insurance before I got with the keynotes.
So just so everybody know, we're talking about Mr. Jeffrey Newberry. He was the tenor singer, and still is. He's the leader of the keynotes, the original keynotes. But go ahead, Teddy.
But anyway, man, and he just talked to me and told me what I needed to do, and because at the time he was like the fashion king in quartet at that particular time, and the truth be told, he gave me my first suit, and of course I had to get it tailored because Jeff is real tall. But I got it tailored, and from then on, I knew what to do. And of course, Larry would give me pointers on how to dress, and of course, Larry was another fashion king, in the in the quartet world. But and there's certain ways that we had to stand when we came on stage, and it's just certain, you just had to have that presence, and of course, after I developed my own style. We were taught that every member of the group have to manage your own fans. Everybody got a fan, your guitar player fans, you got bass fans, you got drum fans, you got second lead singer fans, you got lead singer fans, and you have to manage that and perfect it to the point where people followed you. And so I had to learn that. And it was awesome, man.
Teddy, man, brother, I'm telling you, man, I want to keep you here for 10 hours, bro. I'm telling you, man. So Teddy, you got in the keynotes. The keynotes was on the rise. The keynotes was kind of moving away from the Chitlin circuit. They were coming on to that real gospel circuit that was just exploding because keynotes were hot. So you came in around that time. So you missed some of the hardcore grind that them dudes they went through before you came in the group, right? You got there before And we're going to talk about what album. I don't. Was it before Rise Again album?
I came in on Rise Again.
You came in on Rise Again, so
I came in right after Ain't No Stopping Us Now.
Ain't No Stopping Us.
Ain't No Stopping Us Now was hot.
That's
when
right.
I came in the group.
Okay, so Ain't No Stopping Us Now was yeah. So if you came in on that album, yeah, you came in right when they were like, you know, they were being noted by, you know, by the Stellar Award Committee, by the Grammy Committee. These guys.
Grammy, yeah. As a matter of fact, that record took us to the Grammys. We were nominated for Ain't No Stopping Us Now.
So, Teddy, what was that like, man? What was it? Because we're gonna talk about the money and everything, but what was that feeling like, man? You just jumped on this. It was like the timing was perfect, man. What was that like, bro?
It was like a dream. When I think about it now, you know, I come from a little country town in Virginia in 1980, and then 81. I'm in New York City at Radio City Music Hall at the Grammys. You know, with all the music stars. I mean, everybody. You rubbing shoulders, you know, with Dionne Warwick and, you know, everybody that was somebody at that particular time, man. Christopher Cross at the time, Teddy Pendergrass, the bass player, I can't think of his name, used to play for Sly and the Family Stone.
Larry Graham.
Larry Graham, you know, he was hot back then, and it was just everybody, man. I was in a wonderland, really, and I'm like, I can't believe this. I'm staying at the New York Hilton, you know, on the 75th floor. Like, wow, is this real? All of the gospel stars, the Hawkins family, Shirley Caesar, everybody, man. It was like, is this really real? Yeah, I was totally blown away. It's something I'll never ever forget.
Because literally your life changed. It went from one extreme to a whole nother extreme, correct?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Dude, that just to think about that is amazing. Now, Teddy, let's talk about. Let's dive a little deeper into the situation with the gospel keynotes. Now, you coming on Ain't No Stopping Us Now record, which you're right, that record was on fire. That record was blazing. Just everything about the keynotes changed, man. The quality of their albums. Were you guys still signed to Nash? Was that Nashville or was that
That was still Nashville.
That was Nashville. Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
But everything seemed like everything changed. Seemed like everything just about the group changed, and I could tell. I said, okay, you know, the album covers, just the quality, the pictures, everything just went to another level. Now you're getting ready to be a part, and you're getting ready to play a part on the Rise Again album, correct? You're gonna play
right.
it. You're actually recording on that album. Now, Teddy, go ahead.
I was actually the one that brought that song to the group, Rise Again.
Wow.
It was written and sang by a guy named Dallas Holmes. My daddy used to listen to 700 Club before it was really, really popular, because 700 Club was in Virginia. So we used to listen to it on the radio, and Dallas Holmes would sing Rise Again, and I used to love to play it. And, you know, if like we on break or something, and I'm around, you know, in the dressing room, I would play the song and sing it. And Willie heard me one time. He said, play that again, son. And I kept playing. He said, and he kept until he said, listen, we're gonna record it. I need to get with the fellows and we need to learn this song. And that's how we got it.
So Teddy, did you arrange it for the album?
You know, I didn't arrange it for the album. The song was really what it was.
So you guys pretty
I
much
think-
did the standard arrangement. That's the standard arrangement.
Right. It's a standard arrangement. We may have done some things on the end of it, and I'm not sure who came up with the end that we came up with. I'm trying to think of who the producer was on Rise Again. He used to play with the violins. I can't think of his name, but anyway, you know, but the song was what it was.
But the chord progression that you guys are using on Rise Again is crazy, man, because it's key notes, the open strings is key notes, chord progression.
Yeah, that's Val.
Okay.
That's Val all the way.
That's Val all the way, okay, because you guys really turned that record. I've heard it. I've heard Rise Again is one of my favorite songs, and I've heard it, different ways. But that's one of my favorite songs that you guys did. So whose idea was to have Jeffrey give the record to Jeffrey?
That was after, because on Rise Again album, actually Willie was singing it. That was Willie's idea later on to give it to Jeffrey.
For live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
if you notice, live in Jackson, Jeff was singing it.
yeah, so because the version, the whole thing with Jeff, I mean, you know, it's a showstopper. It's just incredible,
Right.
you know, how you guys put that song together. So Willie just went on and turned the song over to Jeff for live. How come?
Right.
How come?
Willie was phenomenal, man, with, I guess, knowing who to pick for what song. He was phenomenal with that, man. And, because, I mean, even with my songs, Willie picked those songs. So, you know, he was phenomenal at picking who could do what. And of course, you know, he suggested that Jeff would sing the song, and of course, the rest is history. Jeff nailed it. So, you know, he knew what he wanted.
Man, when you talked about fans and, you know, man, Larry McCowan, man, that was my idol, bruh. I want to be that guy. That dude. That I didn't even realize that A string was never quite in tune, even on the records. I never realized until I got older when I started listening. Like, man, Larry, wait a minute, man. How do you? I don't know what. But that is my man. I used to want to be like that guy so bad, man. But man, how
He had the swag.
man, his swag was so cold, man.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. So, were you officially like signed to the Gospel Keynotes? In other words, were you guys signed to the label, or was just Willie Neal signed to the label?
You know, that's one of my downfalls. Is I knew nothing about the business of music or the business of the keynotes. I was busy living the dream of being on stage, you know, and so I believe that Willie was the only one signed to the label. I'm not even sure. I know we would get paid when we recorded. I knew that, but I knew I wasn't signed.
Teddy, so I want to get into a little bit of your testimony, man. You know, about some of the things, because we all thought you guys were rich, man. We thought you guys were really big rock stars, man. I mean, the group I grew up in locally, the famous Pearly Gates, right here in Sacramento, California, got to shout them out, them brothers. They would tell me all the time, you know, them dudes, you know, they ain't got no money, man. They struggling. They barely making it. And I was little, man. I was just saying, man, y'all. if I could have invented the word hating way back then, y'all just hating, but I didn't. I said, man, y'all. He said, man, you gotta grow up and you gotta get you a real job. See, like me, you know, I work for the state and I work for the military, and I'm like, man, nah, I want to be like, y'all don't want to hear none of that. So Teddy, in all of our minds, man, because you guys were so sharp, man. You know, and you guys were everywhere. You were on the radio. You were on your albums, man. We would just get the albums. Man, we would get the albums the first day they came out, man. We was at the record store getting all your records. And just not the keynotes, but it goes for everybody. The Volunteers, the Dixie Hummingbirds, Julius Cheek, everybody, Mighty Klaus, everybody, bro. That's just the way it was. Because Quartet at that time was huge. It was big business.
It was everything, yeah.
So Teddy, and we can go. You can keep it cool. You can keep it light. You can go deep as you want to. It's up to you, man. Because you shared some things with me that we've talked about this, and you shared with me how it wasn't like that. It wasn't like it appeared, and I was blown away. I was blown away by some of the stuff you shared of, you know, of how you guys had to live on and off the road. You shared the experience of the money, playing in front of thousands of people, and the struggle. You shared with me, you know, some of the struggles you had personally. Teddy, get into some stuff like that for me, man, please.
Well, it's a historic thing. You know, Quartet is historically were people who came out of the cotton fields, singing, getting recorded, and of course, the record execs making millions on people who were just glad to get out the cornfield or the cotton field to get on the road traveling and singing and, you know, going through the racism things and, you know, being tortured in certain places and things, you know, so it's a historic thing. I know, you know, I won't call the name of the group, but I know a group that were young, and their first record, they became very prominent in Quartet, but their first record, their payment for recording was a hamburger across the street from the studio. So all of these things played a huge part in knowing our worth. There were some quartets who did obtain some management and did, you know, fairly well. But the rest of them were glad to, they signed without representation, signed to these record companies, and so it carried on throughout, and some of it is still going on, if the truth be told. There, you know, it's easy to be famous and broke. I mean, not only me, I've heard, there's some stories I heard, you know, in R&B, you know, we know of those, but more so in Quartet, there are people who are frightened to have representation because they're afraid of the record execs. And so I experienced that, you know, firsthand, I would say, you know. That's why I say, you know, I fought myself for not knowing the music business. And I learned as much as I could, but it wasn't enough. So yeah, there was plenty of struggle. You know, there were times when we did well. There was times when we didn't do so well. There were times when we struggled. There was times when the struggle wasn't so bad. But I don't think we ever reached our business potential. I don't believe. I believe that the keynotes. I believe that the violinaires, other groups who were very prominent, should have been wealthy. You know, they should have been wealthy even before I got in the group, and especially after I got in the group. Because I mean, I found out the numbers that of units that we were moving, and I know Willie Neal Johnson should have been a millionaire. You know, Robert Blair should have been a millionaire. I mean, and the rest of the group's members should have been well off. You know, but it wasn't that way. So yeah, there was some struggle. There was some struggle mentally because I knew that was more than what I was seeing.
That's incredible to hear, man. Teddy, let me ask you this, man. How true were quartet singers, man? I grew up in the world with quartet. My dad was a quartet singer. He was an alcoholic. That's what he would do. He would get up, tear the church down, and then, you know, go get lit. He would go get drunk. You know, that's what he would do. He would be drunk on the stage, but tearing the church down. Had people believing in everything that was coming out of his mouth. And, you know, quartet groups that I grew up with, you know, some of them, you know, quartet had a reputation. Choirs had a reputation for one thing. Quartets had a reputation for a whole nother thing, right? I'm gonna leave the choir thing alone, but quartet, they had a reputation for being alcoholics, whoremongers, you know, drugs, the whole nine. Teddy, talk a little bit about that. Now we're talking about on the level of you guys are playing in front of thousands of people every night. You know, you guys are doing major things. You guys are on the buses. You guys are, everybody's idolizing you guys. I'm talking about, you know, men, women, kids, you know. Teddy, talk about that, man. How true were y'all to the actual game and to what you guys were singing about and what they were preaching about? And, you know, the whole message behind it, man. How real was that in quartet world?
I got to get spiritual on this because, first of all, we've all sinned and come short of the glory of God at some point, but we get better. And I have seen personally some people get better and they learn over the years, hey, this is not what it's all about. We grow when we know better, when we know what God is saying in our lives. Quartet, for the most part, were true to the ministry of what they were doing. Personal lives, we all got them because, man, and I'm just going to tell you this. Everything that quartet singers did was no worse than a lot of the pastors and deacons that we've seen, because they would take us around when we went to some cities. And they were like, I'm like, whoa, I'm blown away, you know. So what happens is, and then even some of them, they learned and got better over a period of time. Sometimes we try to impress other people by going so far out there. Like let's say I come to Sacramento and there's a fan of mine and they just perceive that I like to drink. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. So, and there's a preacher that, you know, he may take a nip here, but when I'm there, because he's trying to impress me, he go, you know, he take it to the head and he, you know, just go overboard. So I'm seeing this, I'm like, okay, if he's doing it, it must be okay. So we're like impressing each other and hurting each other at the same time. So yes, it's the same in any genre. It doesn't matter what you're singing, because I know some people who were in the R&B world who were born again and wasn't doing the things that I was doing. So the job or the ministry is different in some ways. Like, there are people who can really, they're just anointed to do what they do. But at the same time, just like the Bible said, that, you know, there's come a time in judgment day when Jesus said, he would say, depart from me, I know you not, because your works was in iniquity. That means you just only did it because the gifts come without repentance. So there has to be a point in your life where you realize, oh man, what am I doing? I'm singing about gospel. I'm singing about Jesus. I'm singing about being born again, but I'm living like hell. I'm going through all of this. You know, I never forget when I was hooked on crack. One of the major things that happened in my life was God showed me all of my dreams and all of my goals. He showed them to me going down a drain. I can't remember whether I was awake or asleep, but it was like a vision. And it was one of the things that turned me around. And I believe that everybody had that time in their lives, no matter what you do, that you realize what you're doing is not right. And you have to find a way to get it right. Yes, there are a lot of people in quartet and every other genre out here who have went way over the limit with what the wrong. But then there's a lot of people, thank God, who really come back and say, Jesus, I need you to be Lord over my life. Yes. Yes, I would say I've been guilty. A lot of us have been guilty, but I thank God I saw a lot of them turn their lives around.
And that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate. But Teddy, let me ask you this. You said you were hooked on crack, right?
I want to give myself testimony. 6 years ago, God delivered me from a crack cocaine addiction. Just when Satan said that I couldn't be delivered, God reached down and he broke the chains of sin and he set me free. I'm free. Anybody over here got joy tonight? Anybody over here got joy tonight? What about you right here? If you know you got joy, lift both hands, lift them up high. Say joy, 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 joy.
Were you hooked on crack during the time you was with the gospel keynotes? Was this before, during, or after?
During.
So, while with the gospel keynotes, because you were a powerful figure after a while, you became like one of the second lead singers next to Willie. Would you go on stage? Were you one of those guys that would just go on stage high, get the money, and then go get high?
Yes. I wasn't on crack for a long time.
Yeah.
it was about a 9 month run, and I got tired of it because it was controlling my life. It was ruling me. It's like when I spent all my money and I was broke, I was very intelligent. I had all the sense in the world. But when I had money, I was weak to the addiction. And when I had money, I just had to go find it. And so I got tired of that, man. I got tired of it.
So Teddy, see, what you had was an addiction. So my original question is, like, how true were the artists? And I'm gonna tell you why I'm asking you this question. How true were they to the word? How real was it? I'm gonna tell you why. I'm not gonna mention no names.
Right.
I remember when I was a teenager, man, I went to Oakland and saw a group, or saw artists, female artists, big name, and with the Mother's Day show. And she had the old wheelchair routine, right? So she wheels herself out there. First song, people going crazy. She telling her testimony. I'm sick. I may not ever walk again, but I'm here. Whole house just dumping. Song 1. By song 3, she trying to get up. Did she fall back down in the chair? House going crazy. Song number 5. I'm gonna get up out this. God help me. The music is going and the crowd is just going crazy. Then she fall back down and look like she gonna pass out. Right? By song 7, 8, last song, she gets on up out the chair, dumps the house, kills the house, is a wrap. The next day, they bring this show to Sacramento. I go. Same show, bro. I could have been at a Janet Jackson concert, Beyonce, Temptations, Earth and Fire, something. So the difference is, Teddy, that's a show. But I was very disappointed. It was really a show. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, man. I'm sure you've seen it. I've heard gospel quartet singers get up and make up stories, man, that they know, and dump the house because they great with it. So that's where I'm coming from with my questions, like, because it was a show, man, and everybody got caught up in it. It was like, we got caught up in it, and then, I never fell back, but I'm like, man, these jokers, really? Seriously? Oh, that's how it go? So, Teddy, what was that all about? I mean, like the routine, it was a part of a show, I mean,
yeah.
But it wasn't real. It was fake. So
right.
What is that? How do you explain some of that?
Some people would do anything to, like you say, dump the house, and there's some people will say anything to dump the house. I put it like this: a lie, don't care who tell it. No matter where it comes from.
That just hit me. That's good, Teddy. Now, I don't mind the routine, man. When I was a kid, I seen the Violinaires show. When I was like 5, I heard the first Violinaires record. With Children Are You Ready and Stand By Me and all of them, the whole routine. I could see it 1,000 times to this day. I could see Willie Johnson doing Jesus, You've Been Good to Me, Show Me the Way. I could see the routine over and over. But one thing I couldn't understand was like who was true, who wasn't, who was, what's the real here, and I didn't really trip on it like that, but I tripped on it as I got older, and so talking to you, so when I met you, you shared a lot of things with me, man. We talked about the addictions and the money and the drugs and all that stuff, man. We shared that, and it really tripped me out to know that the keynotes was not rich and rich and living in mansions and that really and most of the groups, man. I've met a lot of my favorite quartet singers, man. Some of them are gone now, but I had a chance to meet them, work with a lot of them, and man, they would tell me real, true, factual stories, man, that I just could not believe. I just couldn't believe how they were treated, and I just was, and it was really a wake-up call. Really hurt me. I had to, pray to God, ask forgiveness from my guys that I grew up with. All those guys are passed and gone, but they were telling me the spot dead on truth about the whole situation. Because I always told myself that I wanted to grow up and be a quartet singer. That's it. I didn't want to do nothing else. I wanted to just play quartet music for life. And then I found out that thought process was way wrong. I was way wrong. But I always I tell people that, and this is real, I'm saying it right here, that if I could have played quartet music all my life and made a living, I would have never touched R&B. I would have never touched nothing else. I would have never touched the funk. I would have just been playing quartet music because that's how much I love it still to this day. But I found out that, that you couldn't make a living for it. The greats, man, the greats. You're right. Some of them handled their business, and I always thought
some of them handle their business and are living well. There are some who are living well, but for the most part, again, they shun the. I have begged some of the artists to get representation. Please, whatever you do, before you sign anything else, get representation. But it's a stigma. It's a stigma. They wouldn't do it and won't do it now.
Teddy, I've been blessed, man, to work on a lot of gospel records with a lot of different people. I've been blessed to be inside the labels and the record companies, and a lot of them are just as janky as secular labels, man. The difference is you walk into them gospel labels, they got cosmetics, they got the makeup, they got the blinds and the shades. You walk into a secular label, it is what it is. They're going to be straight up with you and tell you what it is. That's the difference. I'd rather for somebody to be straight up with me, tell me what it is, versus lie to me, fool me, trick me, put me up. Man, so you're right. It's on both sides. So as I got older, I was able to understand the business and learn about the business. And seemed like you guys back then were like the story you just told me about the young group who got a deal and they got their payment was hamburgers from the burger place across the street, man. That is unbelievable to me. I've heard stories like that, but to hear them firsthand is really, really crazy. So, and these are people that, that's representing, the body of Christ and gospel labels, gospel, they're hiding behind that. And you would think that they would have some kind of right integrity or some kind of heart, some kind of morals and values about how they conduct business. And yet and still some of them, a lot of them don't. Never could understand that, man.
Well, again, it's like they say, you can take a person out of the country, but you can't take the country out of them. It's the same thing. We came out of the cotton fields and the corn fields and just never got it out of us when it came to the business. We learned how to dress. We learned how to look. We learned a lot of different things. But the business, was slow. We were slow with that, very, very slow.
Wow.
And some of them, you know, I would say this: we as quartet singers, and this just from my point of view. Some other quartet singers may have a whole different point of view.
Understood.
I think that we lost it when we got to the pinnacle of quartet music, and we thought, this is it. This is it. You know, everybody loves me. You know, I'm traveling, and you know, I'm making a few dollars. My name is called, and we thought that was it. The glitz and the glamour, you know, without substance. We didn't realize, man, this is not it. We didn't realize. We didn't realize.
Wow.
That's from what I've seen. Somebody else may have a whole different story, but that's my experience. I say it like that.
Hey man, that makes sense, and I second that. I could definitely rock with that statement. I can personally rock with everything you just said. Ted, let me ask you a couple more things, man, and I'm gonna let you go. Listen, how I'm trying to figure out how to ask this, man, about Willie, man. How much of a genius was Willie Neal Johnson, man?
Willie was a phenomenal genius, man. Like I said, you know, Willie was not the greatest singer in the world, but he just knew exactly what to do on stage and on record to sell records. Willie sold so many records. I mean, he was just phenomenal, man. He knew what to say. He knew how to conduct himself on and off stage. It was very rare that Willie would miss a house. Very rare. I mean, I could probably count it on one hand, the number of times that he missed a house. It may be just one finger I would have to use, but he was just so in tune with the surrounding. He was in tune with the time, the culture. He was in tune with whoever went in front of him on stage or coming behind him. I mean, he was just phenomenal, man. It's like, how can one man be able to do all of this? And like I say, he wasn't a great singer, but he was an awesome performer that you couldn't deny his voice. It was just, you have to be a genius to do that, man.
The concerts you guys that they used to have, man, and quartet used to be so much fun, man. The Battle of the Giants or the trophy. Would you guys really be battling for a real trophy or at the end of the day? What was that like, man? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, these guys were, you know how the Kings of Comedy was, you know. These guys were the kings of quartet at that time. Nobody was harder than them. And they toured together. And, you know, like I got there right in the middle of all of that. And, you know, we would tour together, but then we had some other dates, like when we came to California, you know, twice a year, you know, we would come out there basically by ourselves with, you know, use some local groups maybe in the area, but we would come out by ourselves. we come out every January, and I think every July at that time, I believe it was. Yeah, we would tour, the West Coast, and then we'd come back and get back with the tour.
So Teddy, did the Battle of the Giants? Because I've been to a couple of the battles, right? So was it the same groups all the time, or did they kind of intertwine or interface the groups in and out? Did they switch them up, or how would they determine what groups would be in the battle?
The Battle of the Giants basically would be the Gospel Keynotes, Slim and the Supreme Angels, Willie Banks, and the Messengers. But every now and then we switch out and have somebody else, depending on who was hot in certain areas. Maybe the Balinese would come in, and maybe the Weird Brothers would come in.
Or the Canton Spirituals.
Yeah. Depends on where it was. But for the most part, it was those three groups.
Wow. Man. I'm telling you.
A lot of people wanted to be a part of the Battle of the Giants. Because it was just that hot, man.
Teddy, let me ask you this second to the last final question. What did quartet music lose when Frank Williams died?
Another genius. Frank Williams, to me, brought I would say more biblical definition to his wording, a little bit more churchy. When we lost Frank Williams, we kind of lost that. And of course, his producing brought quartet to another level, almost to another churchy level. It was like almost the last stand, because choirs were slowly taking over at that particular time. At one time, I know when I first came on the road, quartets ruled the radio. And so, we were slowly fading out, but I think Frank gave us that last stand before he died. So we kind of lost that when we lost Frank.
To add with that, I remember when he passed, man, and I was at that age to really understand the impact for me that it had. Frank Williams, man, was, he being a full solid member of the Jackson Southernaires, straight quartet. He walks away from one of the biggest groups, and I think he was a brilliant thinker. I never met him, but just from the outside looking in, I think he was a brilliant thinker, because what I saw Frank doing at his young age was bringing the two cultures together. The culture, I think Frank Williams was going to be that Kurt Franklin or that Fred Hammond of that era, to take gospel music to another level, because whoever would have thought that quartet and and choir would come together and merge like when he did with Mississippi Mass. When he did that move with Mississippi Mass, man, I think that was a powerful thing, man. And I think it was getting ready to bridge the gap, man, and open the door to because it still was gospel, it still was, Malachi was still on the Chitlin circuit, but it was so huge, the merger was so huge. I saw something really big that was getting ready to happen, man. I think Malachi would be a whole lot different if he wouldn't have left. I think the business of Malaco would have been right. As powerful as that label, was, there's just so many horror stories, about that label. In fact, I had an artist of my own at one while, and we got offered a deal that just was laughable. It was like, I thought I was watching cartoons. It was laughable. So, but Frank Williams, man, I think he was on because he had the best of both worlds. He was highly respected in quartet world. Now you got the biggest choir in the world, Mississippi Mass, that's got your full-blown attention. And I just saw the merger, because even though he did with Mississippi Mass, he was still quartet with Mississippi Mass.
Right.
He had Mississippi Mass, being more quartet than him being more choir. You dig what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I think, man, I just hate it, man, because we never had a chance to see what that end was going to be. But I honestly thought that he was going to be the guy. I thought he was on something special. It was, everybody was excited, and then God just saw fit to call him home, man. So big shout out to man, I was a Willie Neal fan, and you're right. Everything you said about Mr. Johnson, man, is correct, man. And so you guys Willie would be on stage calling out songs according to how the temperature in the room. He would call out songs.
Yes.
Brilliant, yes. Man. Brilliant. You guys may have had a set show. Then during the set, he's looking around and then calling out these. Man, I've never seen. Every time I've ever seen the keynotes, man, you guys burnt out every house I've ever seen with the Violinaires. Everybody. I mean, and the Violinaires was probably my second most favorite. So he was a brilliant dude, man. He was a.
Yeah. He never had a set.
Wow.
He would just call out songs.
Really?
Never had a set. He would call out songs on stage.
Wow.
I've never known him to have a set.
Wow. Teddy, man, listen. Man, this is so good, brother. Oh, real quick, what's the biggest song that you recorded with the gospel keynotes?
With God I'm Satisfied. It's probably the biggest song that I've ever recorded. A lot of people call it Down in the Water. Sold a lot of records. Man.
I'm gonna make sure we put a link in the description so people can click it so they can see who this brother is. And that's my joint. That's my joint. That's my joint. Teddy, what are you doing these days, my brother? Talk to me. How's things going? What are you doing? I know you're pastoring now. Let's talk about a little bit about that.
I'm pastoring at a little country church here in Raleigh, Mississippi. Matter of fact, I'm getting ready to celebrate 4 years of pastoralship. My church is 153 years. We're going to be celebrating that in a little while too. So, man, I love what I'm doing because I'm helping people. I've noticed over the 4 years, the continents of the people has brightened up so much because what God has given me is encouragement to know that we win no matter what when we trust God, when we know who we are and know whose we are. It's a mindset. That's one of the reasons I appreciate you so much, because your mindset, I know some of your battles, but I've never known you to feel defeated. And so this is what I teach. I teach people that when you're a son or a daughter of God, you are never defeated unless you decide that you are. So I've noticed the countenance has brightened even in the community where the church is, and man, I'm happy to be a part. The name of the church is Mount Nebo Missionary Baptist Church. I'm doing that, and of course I'm still doing some singing, and of course you've done some work with me, and along with Ray Braswell. So I'm still recording, and I'm looking forward to releasing some major things. So that's what I'm doing. Also, I've been in the trucking business. I'm teaching trucking, truck driving. So I'm teaching other people how to get out, and there's a lot of people who are changing their lives. Believe it or not, there are people who go to jail, come out, and they come to trucking school just to change their lives. So I'm grateful. It's a ministry as well. So yeah, I'm living a dream again.
Wow, man, I got to give a shout out to my little brother, man, Ray Braswell, man. I mean, probably to me the greatest quartet producer on the planet. I mean, he's just my favorite, and I can't wait to have him. He's gonna be my next quartet head, because I got to get him on here, man. But Ray. Shout out to you, man. I love you. Keep doing your thing, man. Ray Markable, Teddy, man. Teddy, brother. Let me tell you, man. Ain't nothing changed, man. From the first time I met you, and where were we at? We were in Birmingham at a quartet convention. And when I first met you, man, I was in awe. I was in, we had our quartet group, man, and things didn't go too well. We from California, so all week, man, we practicing loud. We practicing loud. We put a luncheon on in honor of the Williams brothers. So we held a luncheon, and everybody was in the room, man. Joe the Gun, man, Teddy Cross, man, all the quartets. So this was a showcase that we doing for the Williams brothers, and our group, man. We was ready, Teddy. We was ready. It was a small little room, had food, and I don't know, maybe held like 75 people. It was real private. And I met you, man, and you heard about, it was Papa Joe and the Harmonizers, and you heard Come By Here. You knew the record, and you said, I can't wait to hear you, boy. Spanky was there, man. Spanky was my boy. Spanky was there, man. And man, let me tell you, man, when I say I think we crashed and burned because we were playing our volume was on 10. The volume was on 10, man. And man, Teddy, man, you and Spanky, both of y'all said, listen, man, D, y'all got a good group, but you got to turn it down. You got to pin it to the flow, man. Y'all way too loud. Spanky said, man, you boy too loud, man. Y'all got to pin it to the flow, man. You be too loud, man. If Harvey, if that was me with Harvey, man, he would turn around and find everybody, man. Y'all. So now that's our thing, man. It's called pin it to the flow. Break it down. Teddy, man.
There's a time, there's a time to take it up. But
there's a time. But this wasn't the time at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, everybody's sophisticated, bourgeois trying to eat, and we on 10 and a half. So we going in, we had a drummer who played real loud because he hit from way down here. So he cracking. But it was so much fun, man. Listen, Teddy, I'm going to let you go, but I got to ask you this one last question. You got Mount Rushmore. You got 4 of the greatest quartet groups, 4 now, that you're going to put on your Mount Rushmore. What 4 are they going to be?
From any era?
Any era, my brother.
Mount Rushmore. From any era. Dixie Hummingbirds. I gotta go with Willie. That's my guy. I gotta go with Joe Lagon. And I would say, man, this is a tough one. If I had five, I would say Willie Banks, I would say Huey Williams, and then Jack Southernere.
So you gonna go to Southerners over the Williams brothers?
On the Mount Rushmore,
Yeah.
I love the Williams brothers, but I guess in that era, I choose the Southerners. Because I mean, really, you know what? And you know what? I might have to erase all of that. Let me tell you. I got to tell you this story, man.
Yeah.
It was 1968. My very, very first concert. My big brother took me to see the Violinaires, the Blind Boys, and Shirley Caesar was opening up for them. And Shirley Caesar did her thing, the Blind Boys did their thing, but the Violinaires had me sitting on the front row with my mouth wide open. I could not believe what I was seeing. So I cannot leave them out of the Mount Rushmore. I would have to have too many heads on the mountain. I need at least two Mount Rushmore.
Hey man, I love this. I love this question, man, because it's impossible question to answer, man. And everybody says the same exact thing, man. Everybody, listen, Teddy, man.
Williams brother,
Yeah.
Williams brother would be on one of them too.
Yeah, the Williams brothers, man. I mean, come on, man. What about Julius Cheeks, man? Come on.
Right.
What about Julius Cheeks, man? You got Willie Banks. Julius Cheeks was a monster, man.
Yes.
Monster, man. What about the Pilgrim Jubilees, man? You can't.
Pilgrim Jubilees, another group. Yeah.
Highway QCs, man. You tripping, Teddy?
You can't stop.
You got to put
You
the
can't
can,
stop.
man. The canned spirituals, man. You tripping? You lose your mind, Teddy. Come on, Lee Williams.
can't stop.
Lee Williams, man. Come on,
You
Teddy.
can't stop.
Come
You can't stop.
The Gospel Caravan, you really tripping. Come on.
You can't stop.
We go all
can't
day,
stop.
man. You can't
It
stop.
don't stop.
It don't stop. Teddy, man, thank you, my brother, my big brother, man. Thank you for hanging out with me and talking quartet, man. You know, we could do this all day and all night. You know, I just love the stories. And you guys have experienced a lot of loss, with Paul Beasley, Charles, and just so many greats.
Gino.
Man. Yeah, Gino's gone, man. Val. I mean, just so
Willie,
many.
Val.
So many. Just people just gone, man. And God still has you here for a purpose and a reason, man. So, dude, I can't wait to see what's next in the future. We got a couple of bangers that's getting ready to hit next year, so y'all get ready for that. But Teddy, thank you so much, big brother, for hanging out with me,
Bless
man.
you, man.
Man, I love you, man. I love you to death, man. I appreciate you.
I love you too, brother.
And,
really do, man.
and I don't take it lightly, man. I really don't, man. I appreciate you, man. Listen here, everybody, give it up for my brother, my big brother, one of the greatest quartet singers to ever walk the earth. I mean, not just in our generation and 2 or 3 generations ago. Give it up for the one the only pastor, my big brother, Teddy Cross. Give it up for y'all.
Man. Thank you, man. I appreciate you so much.
Love you, man.
Love you too.
DOA playlist. Let's get the funk out.